The Magnificent Battle, Merlin, Arthur's Court, and the Mistress of Time, by the Magus. Read by the Magus. Chapter 19, A New Dawn. As the book saith, one day in springtime at Cardigan his castle, King Arthur held court. So rich a one was never seen, for there were many good knights, brave, combative, and fierce, and rich ladies and maidens, noble and beautiful daughters of kings. But before the court disbanded, the king told his knights that he wanted to hunt the white stag in order to revive the tradition. My Lord Gawain was not a bit pleased when he heard this. "Sire," he said, "from this hunt you will gain neither gratitude nor thanks. We have all known for a long time what tradition is attached to the white stag. He who can kill the white stag, by right must kiss the most beautiful of the maidens of your court, whatever may happen. Great evil can come from this, for there are easily 500 damsels of high lineage here, noble and wise daughters of kings, and there is not a one who is not the favorite of some valiant and bold knight, each of whom would want to contend, rightly or wrongly, that the one who pleases him is the most beautiful and the most noble." The king replied, "This I know well, but I will not give up my plan for all that. Tomorrow morning, with great pleasure, we shall all go to hunt the white stag in the forest of adventure. This will be a most wonderful hunt." From Eric and Enid in Detois' Arthurian Romances, page 37-38. So the feast and the anticipation of the hunt went on well into the night. The good knights, brave, combative, and fierce, drank to the health of the king and to his queen, a lady so passing fair that she excelled all others in the land. Minstrels sang songs raucous and bawdy, and ballads of great adventures, and deeds of worship done by knights of old. Wizened, battle-scarred warriors, their tongues loosened by chalices of strong red wine, told of their marvelous deeds and horrible adversaries, while young pages stood gape-mouthed and learned of the terrible wonders of the world outside the walls of the castle, where evil giants kept fair damsels locked in towers, and wizards cast spells, making kings and lords mistake braying donkeys for their ladies, and even the devil himself poses as the fairest of maidens, yea, even fairer than Guinevere, if such even the devil could imagine, to tempt worthy knights to defile the noble order of knighthood. Warriors picked for delicacies around the head of the pig, roasted in yonder hearth on a great iron spit, turned by lads of noble birth and stature, future Dark Age militants and wearers of the noble order of knighthood. One knight swore upon the faith of his body that the stories he told were as true as the words of Jesu, that is, Jesus. Then, in all modesty and with great solemnity, he related the time he unhorsed 30 good knights upon a field of battle with a single spear, and vanquished 30 more with his noble sword, while bleeding so much that the ground was red for 50 paces in every direction. Yet he had the strength to endure. Another, finding a fair maiden, who, bodice cinched tight and low, while she herself was loose with wine and missing a tooth or two, was captivated by his adventures. He told of the perilous time he saved a village from a fire-breathing dragon — there were lots of those back then — that had terrorized the countryside, how he searched the dragon out in the dark forest, and how his armor glowed red with the heat of the breath of the foul beast, and how, knowing no fear of course. He slew it with a fearsome blow till the guts came out upon the ground, and they boiled like soup in a cauldron until the leaves and grass blazed. How he cut off the head, which was more fearsome than 1,000 devils, and dragged it to the village that praised his mighty deeds of worship, and gave him the fairest maiden in the village as a prize. Of course, he denied reward for his deeds, in accordance with the requirements of the high order of knighthood, and because the fairest maiden of the village bore a slight resemblance to a horse he had once known, and left without compensation. The wine-soaked maiden listened with rapt attention, and nearly swooned at the thought of the fearsome beast. Dazed, she sought the comfort of her drinking cup, and put her head down upon the table, and fell into dreams of being held against her will by an evil giant, and being rescued by the handsomest knight ever, all in shining white armor on a great white horse, who killed the giant and took her away to his castle, where they lived happily ever after. So these knights of the Round Table, their squires, their ladies, paramours, and damsels, their younger brothers, and some of their dear old fathers, and a varlet for each knight to care for his needs, and a couple of wizards, and even a red-faced bishop, drank and ate and sought to excel each other in tales. Near the hearth, a gaggle of unwashed children was running about, pretending to joust and hack at each other with swords, and bullying the smallest, or the fattest, or the homeliest, or the cross-eyed one, or the hunchback, or whatever set one apart from the group by the slightest difference, typical activities of uninhibited children, and taunted the dwarf, and pulled the tails of the satiated dogs, who had been the beneficiary of morsels of the pig and chicken legs and whatever else had been dropped from the table by the hungry knights. All the while the minstrels sang, harps played, drums clattered, and flutes stabbed at notes that grew increasingly elusive as the grape took its toll on the fingers and all the rest of the body, as far as that goes. But the songs persisted, and became less precise, but more booming and raucous, as the libations flowed, and the hall grew increasingly mellow. So up to the high ceiling the tunes careened and bounced like pong between the stony walls and arches, and spilled over into the chill air of the out-of-doors, where the birds that were attempting to roost in nearby trees and bushes complained to one another of the noise and the excesses of men, and a wild boar or two looked up from rooting through a garden to note the noise of the feast, never thinking of old Fred, who had been a great garden rooter until he became the centerpiece of the royal dinner table. Likewise, there was a small flock of deer who furtively nibbled on tender growth of trees and shrubs, and searched for a berry or an acorn. They were wary and careful, and always on the lookout for men with what they called birds of death, but which we call arrows, which sometimes took their friends and family. Stealthily they grazed across a field, not yet subject to going thorn and becoming the butt of jokes about the deer in the headlights, because there were no headlights yet. Among them was the white stag. The arrival of the new day and the rising of the sun was inevitable, but exactly when? This morning, in this place, it was the honor of a modest wren to be the first to proclaim the tidings. It was the wren who looked through the tower window at the mickle of fair princesses and ladies, knights and pages, either asleep or passed out in the comforting, if musty security of the tower, free for one night of fears of evil giants and fierce dragons. It was that wren who took wing and carried the news to the forest, and spread it to her kin, who then broadcast the eternal message to the world. Morning is coming, the sun is returning. Get on with the shift change. Those who were at work, find your bed. Those of you who are asleep, it's time to get up. Plants and animals, live, breathe, flourish, play, and be what you are. Men, you always claim you want a second chance. Now you have it. Try to see if you can make it till sundown without destroying something. If you can't love someone, at least try to do no harm.